I checked all the boxes. I did everything right. I was kind, I was loyal, giving, healing. So why did they still leave? If you've ever felt like this, like you gave your best to someone only for them to disappear, ghost, or discard you without warning, this video is for you. Because love isn't a job interview, and your worth was never tied to someone else's ability to see it. We grow up learning how to perform for love. Be the smart one, the pretty one, the selfless one, the perfect one. And eventually, without us even realizing, we begin to start thinking, if I just do everything right, they'll stay. I'll get the love that I'm searching for. I'll be rewarded. But what happens if they don't? What happens when somebody who once made you feel seen and chosen suddenly disappears? What happens when a friend or a lover who meant the world to you leaves you with silence? I'll tell you what happens. We blame ourselves. We spiral. We think, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth that nobody tells you. You could do everything right and they'll still leave. Because real love isn't conditional. It doesn't require you to perform. It's not a checklist. And if someone walks away after you've given them your heart, they were never meant to hold it in the first place. If you come from a childhood where love was earned, where affection was tied to achievement or obedience, you likely developed the belief that love is something that you have to work for. And like I always say, that's not your fault. It's a trauma response. And when it's left unhealed, you'll unconsciously recreate it in adulthood, attracting people who only love you when you're convenient, quiet, useful, or impressive. The love you accepted as a child becomes the love you chase as an adult. But love isn't something you have to earn. You are worthy by existing. You don't need to prove your value to anyone. And when someone leaves, it's not always rejection. Sometimes it's redirection back to yourself. And speaking from personal experience, it's always been redirection back to myself. Several times throughout the past couple years, there has come a point in my life when people I had deeply loved and been hurt by reappeared. And most of the times, they'd reappear as if nothing happened. And when they did, I was met with a choice. Reactivate the old wound, the old attachment, the old hope that maybe this time it would be different. Maybe the potential I see in them would finally manifest. Maybe they would be the person that changed. Maybe they'd be choosing good for themselves. Or remain anchored in my newfound healing and see it for what it was. A test of my boundaries, not my worth. Because healing doesn't always look like cutting someone off. Sometimes you cannot control whether that is possible for you. Sometimes healing is, I am secure enough in myself. I am grounded enough in my center. I am in control enough of my emotions that I can be around you. And you'll never know how I feel about you because I've detached. And that's not something that's done in coldness, but in clarity. Because detachment means they no longer have power over your emotions. Let's talk about how to truly reclaim your peace, even when people who once hurt you try to come back. Number 1. Practice the law of detachment. Detachment is not about giving up the intention to manifest your desires. It's about giving up your attachment to the outcome. So yes, you can care, you can love, but you don't grip, you don't beg, you don't chase. Number 2, Stoicism. Focus on what you can control. The Stoics taught us, you suffer more in imagination than in reality. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stop trying to control how others treat you, and start mastering how you respond. Detachment is the practice of letting people be who they are without making it about you. Number 3, Buddhism. Attachment is the root of all suffering. Buddhism teaches the root of all suffering is attachment. You're suffering not because someone left your life, but because you attached your identity to their presence. Let go of the idea that someone else holds the key to your validation, because the simple truth is that the only person who will ever hold that key is you. Number 4, reclaim your sacred energy. One of the most empowering shifts of my life was realizing not everyone deserves access to the sacred parts of you. And so no, when you're around people, you don't have to overshare. You don't have to initiate. You don't even have to explain your boundaries. Silence is a sentence. Distance is a decision. And peace is the new proof. I really got inspired to film this video today after noticing within myself how I feel in response to very important figures in my life and in my healing journey. What I mean by that is I've had recent encounters with several people, friends, romantic interests, even family, that at one point all completely broke me and shattered me, for a lack of gentler words. And the old me would have seen no other choice but to completely cut them off and kind of go cold and flip a 180, and then kind of like have this fire in me and this motivation to like glow up and push myself really hard in the gym and do all these things. And I think that serves its purpose in a way, like rising above your hardship, absolutely, but never really giving myself the time to honor and process my feelings and have compassion and love for both myself and these people and find forgiveness in the scenario. It always just kind of turned to this like internal fire, not pettiness, but revenge through my own betterment and moving on that way, until I was met with these very specific scenarios where that wasn't an option for me. Because like I said, you don't always have the privilege of cutting people off that hurt you. And sometimes also it's not necessary to do that. I remember after getting really severely traumatized by some of the situations I'm talking about today, I started going to therapy because I was met with situations now where I couldn't use my old approach to heal and move on. And I didn't know how to go about a relationship with someone that I felt betrayed me so deeply and also was not living up to the expectations that I had for that person. I don't think I'm a person with a big head or ego or superiority complex. I never think of myself like I'm better than you because I'm healed and all that stuff. Like I don't use those words in my vocabulary ever. But before, because I did used to fix people so deeply and always insert myself in that way, I got personally offended when they wouldn't listen to my advice or act in the way that I believe they should. So again, I took it as a personal offense. And the problem with that again is that it's not my job to do that. And the decisions people make in their life shouldn't affect me, and they shouldn't to an extent affect the relationship we have together. A great example of this is the romantic partners people in my life choose to have. I may not think they're great, I may hate them, but their decision to date those people shouldn't affect the relationship we have together. And that's both an intention that I needed to work on, but also these people, if they're letting their partner disrespect me or letting our relationship relationship gets sacrificed because of their romantic partner, that's an issue that is between me and that person then, because they're choosing to act in a way that doesn't prioritize our relationship. Anyway, so I'll never forget being in therapy for the first time and my therapist telling me basically almost all of the time the solutions for strenuous relationships aren't a black and white answer where you either completely are best friends and really go full force into like a swarming each other, or to the other end of that, completely cutting each other off cold turkey, I'm never going to speak to you again kind of thing. There's usually a gray area. Again, in this gray area, you only have control over your actions. And for me, that box of my control resulted in one, again, being like emotionally grounded and mature enough not to feel triggered or hurt in the presence of these people. Two, giving them compassion and forgiveness and understanding that they're approaching their situation from their level of consciousness, which is completely different from mine. We'd also use keywords like the hero or the villain or the antagonist or the protagonist and bystanders. And so she kind of would walk me through like my perception of myself in my story and their perception of themselves in their story. And so in my story, I would say I think I'm like the light, I'm the helper, I'm the healer, and the person that was hurting me was, I guess, the villain in my story. And then you have like either innocent or guilty bystanders or accomplices in your storyline. In their storyline, the person that's hurting me, they're the victim and I'm the villain. I'm the one hurting them and they're a victim of my actions. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of had to learn to accept and heal and be okay with the fact that like I'm not gonna be the hero or the fixer-upper in everyone's story, and it's not my job to be either. I can't help it if my responses to other people's hurt and harm to me hurts them, or they then complain and act like they're the victim. I can't help that. So instead of cutting them off completely and saying, I hate you, you're an awful person, I just need to learn how to be okay with having interactions with them within boundaries. So for me, that looks like being in very specific scenarios. Usually that's like in an outdoor or public setting, or there's a third party involved, or there's like a form of entertainment we're mutually watching or enjoying together. So a concert, movies, games, whatever the case may be. Basically being in environments that takes the pressure off being one-on-one, and then also like being okay with not needing their validation. Right? Just accepting that this person's always going to see it this way. I can't change them and the way they view it. And I need to be okay on my own and be okay around them. And the only way I can be okay around them is if I get to the root of my wounds and understand why their behavior hurts me so deeply in the first place. Another analogy she gave is like when somebody is poking your skin, it's annoying. Like it's not something you enjoy feeling, but this act of someone poking your skin, it doesn't hurt, right? It's just like, oh, like I'd rather you not be there poking me, but whatever, I can tolerate it if you are. Versus if someone is poking you, but there's a bruise on your skin or an open scab, that hurts because there's already a wound there. And so when people's behavior was poking me, sure, it's annoying that they're poking me and acting that way, but I can't control that. What I can control is healing the wound that makes their poking hurt instead of putting a band-aid over it and distracting myself or ignoring those wounds, for example, by cutting them off and doing that whole like fire revenge thing. Through therapy and deep, intense breathwork sessions and meditations and inner child healing and reprogramming, and especially yoga, which I'm going to make a separate video on, I've learned to heal my nervous system, feel safe in my body, feel finally like free and good in my body and at peace in my body, and at peace and very proud of who I am internally, externally, physically, mentally, spiritually, so that I no longer care or feel the need to fix these people, change the way they're acting, chase their validation, need them to see my side of things. Like, I don't care. If we can be positive acquaintances, if cutting them off is not an option, then I'm totally at peace with that. And I know I've grown and changed too, because I no longer care to do that, especially in the context of certain people who have re-entered my life now, not because I wanted them to, but for like different situational reasons. For example, like having mutual friends and getting invited to something. Like, I'm not asking for them to come back, but I'm also not still affected by them to the point where I need to completely not go to this event and block them and not even be able to be in the same room as them because they still have power over my emotion. And I think that's kind of the big thing that I'm trying to get at with my personal experiences. It's like either completely chasing them or completely ignoring them is two sides of the same coin, because they still have power and control of your emotions. If you have to completely change your life, change your way of being, intentionally ignore and avoid these people, you're still as emotionally controlled by them as you were when you had a more closer relationship and you were chasing and begging and craving their validation 24/7. I am now at a point where I can be in the same room as these people who once I thought that was impossible, who once I thought I could never be around them again because I'm so butthurt. But through all of these healings and methods and ways of life, I'm now able to be in full control of my emotions and reclaim my power. And that is such a liberating feeling, being able to say yes to something and be okay, even if they're there, but also to be able to say no to something when I just simply don't want to be there, when I simply just don't want to hang out. And I've been able to do both. I've been able to be in events and in situations where I'm around these people that were poking my bruises, but now because I've healed the bruise, I can be around them, but I can also say no to these people when before I had a hard time speaking up for myself and saying no. And so to circle it back, the reason why I felt so inspired to film this video today is because those situations came up where they were in contact with me or where we had a mutual event that we were going to, and regardless of the outcome, I felt okay. And I felt so empowered in being able to respond to them, whether I said yes or no, both cases. I'm like, hell yes, you don't have control over me anymore. And that is such a beautiful feeling. Nobody should have control over your emotions that deeply, but again, that all forms from your own internal attachment, which at the root is the conditionings that you were taught as a child that revolve around how to get the proper love, emotional support, and nurturing that you needed at that age to survive. We're very smart beings. As children, we're very, very smart. I just listened to this incredible podcast, and the scientist, anthropologist that they brought on spent the whole 50 minutes talking about how as humans, like, we're the most adaptable creature. Name another creature that has survived this long in time and across almost every part of the world geographically. We are so adaptable. A great example of this physically is our features. If you notice the size of men's hands over the past century, so think of your brother or your boyfriend's hands versus your grandpa's hands or your great-great-grandfather's hands. The hands of older generations are very big. Like in mass, in size, their fingers are huge. They could probably grab a basketball with one hand because they needed bigger hands to do the industrial work and the physical manual labor they were doing. Whereas now we're very sedentary, working on computers. We're not using our hands as much to do gritty, very taxing things. So our hands have naturally become smaller and slimmer. Another example of this is our noses. European noses, so Roman noses, Greek noses, are shaped the way they are. So narrow, higher, more prominent nose bridges because we needed to adapt to the cold air. Whereas people of color have less of a nose bridge and wider tips of their nose. That's because they needed to adapt to be able to get proper oxygen in heated environments. So they're inhaling hot air. Another example they used is like people that live in the Himalayas or the Appalachian Mountains, really high altitudes, produce more red blood cells in their body, but a specific percent of them to be able to again sustain oxygen because at those high altitudes, oxygen is very scarce. So take that and apply it to, more personal experiences where we're in a household with a mom and dad or whatever family dynamic, and we start to pay attention to our mom's body language, our mom's facial expressions, the look in our mom's eyes, her tone of voice when we do something good or bad or something that she approves of or disapproves of. We quickly learn her patterns and behavior so that we can adapt our behavior in order to always get the best case scenario, to always receive the most love and nurturing, because otherwise we feel like we're not going to survive. And so we need to adapt ourselves in order to get the care that we should be given, period. We're taught how to perform out of survival, and love is not something that we should have to perform for. So the greatest act of love and service you could do for yourself is to teach yourself that you don't have to perform for love. You don't need to earn love, especially not with yourself. You don't need to do anything to prove that you're worthy. You just have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. I'm deserving of love, and give yourself a hug. That's all you have to do. And the more you do that, the more you practice that, the better you're going to be at being calm and collected and grounded in situations that used to once trigger you, or situations that were once chaos and put your body in fight or flight, especially as a child. So a great, very basic example is like being around your parents arguing. You might have been the type of child who, again, shut her mouth to keep the peace, but that still causes a trauma fight or flight response in your body. Instead of fight or flight, you fawn, you freeze, and you fawn. You compliment the other person. You try stroke their ego, brush them so that they become calmer. That's a trauma response. I've noticed it in myself. Being around environments that used to once trigger me, I feel it in my body. I feel the tenseness begin to start. But now, the more and more I continue to work on myself, the more I begin to emotionally regulate myself. I have taught myself how to get in that meditative state, even in the face of my previous triggers and chaos. Another great example I can give you in my personal life is, as many of you know, I've been single for over 5 years now. An ongoing reward for myself, a number I love to share. And I've been abstinent throughout that whole time. So like, I haven't dated anyone. I haven't had any like really intimate relationships. I've gone on dates, but like that doesn't really count. There was one guy that I met earlier in the year, and I was just like really struck by him. He was the first guy that I had met since my ex-boyfriend that, I know I'm gonna be a little hypocritical here, but checked off all my boxes in terms of having mutual values and things that I would look for in a partner. And really, they're just all of the values that I carry with the most pride and intention in my life. And so he met the standard for me in every single way. And it was like kind of a surprise to me, because I was like, wow, like I didn't expect to meet somebody at my level, for lack of better words, at this time. And so we had like gone out a couple times, and not to be all cheesy, because I truly don't think this is like the indicator of true love when it comes to finding potential romantic matches, but we talked all night. Every time we had gone out, like we were together for like hours and hours and hours, and just like had a really beautiful conversation about all the things I enjoy talking about. And like he seemed to be someone very self-aware, emotionally grounded, very spiritual, open-minded, all the things. So I was just like, wow, like I'm really impressed by this guy, right? And so I felt myself enter a new era where I now had to navigate how to not like get super excited and throw myself at somebody right away. I'm not a woman to chase. I don't chase a man. I'm never gonna like fight and have to like beg for a man's attention and be like, choose me, pick me, love me. Like that's not how I operate. But mentally, I guess as like a Cancer rising in Venus, like I get swept away very quickly in my own mind. But then once I'm out of it, like I'm out of it, it's like a switch that snaps off in my brain where I'm like, okay, like I'm over this little like honeymoon daydream in my own brain. Anyway, everything was like going well, and I had started to anticipate that it would probably progress into something more than just like going out a couple times, getting to know each other. Long story short, it didn't. And it really troubled me for a long time because, again, I never really got that closure as to why. It was just like we went out a couple times. It was great. I felt like we kind of hit it off. Like he was everything I think I would be looking for if I was to say like, in a partner, I'm looking for this because I'm never like looking for a boyfriend. As we know, I've been single for so long. And again, like I had yet to meet a guy that one, I was like physically attracted to, but also like mentally and intellectually and spiritually attracted to. So I was just like really attracted to this guy. And so basically for him to ghost me, I was like, you know, like it was so hard for me, and it genuinely took me a long time to get over. Even though we never dated, we never kissed, like it was never anything physical, but it took me a long time to get over it because it was like I finally felt seen by a guy, and then for him not to reciprocate or choose me hurts my ego, because then I'm like, why? And again, all in the ego, I'm like, I'm beautiful, I'm funny, I'm smart, like I check off all the boxes. Again, with that job interview kind of talk, like I've perfected the game, so why is he not eating out of my hand? So that was the first reason why it really hurt. And the second reason why it really hurt was because of course I actually liked him. Like I actually had feelings for him. It wasn't like me just playing this performative act of love and game. I actually felt myself drop my shoulders and not perform for him in the way I usually do around men. And again, because I'm not a person that chases men. When I say perform, I don't mean like baking him bread and like texting him good morning and at specific times of the day. I more mean like just being my usual flirty self and going through the more natural dating process, I guess you could say. Like with him, we just kind of started off the bat with like really genuine, deep conversation. So there was never that like, you know, flirty banter back and forth. So that's what I mean when I say perform. So it really hurt me when I felt rejected by a guy that one, I genuinely really liked. And also because even when I take that aside from my ego perspective, I've worked so hard on myself and become the package in my eyes and hold myself up to that standard. And so for him not to pick me, it's like, who the F do you think you are? But I've learned so much about myself in the process of just healing from that wound. And this is a wound that has shown up in my life time and time and time again, of feeling the need to want to be chosen by a special someone. It started in my childhood. So I have this root conditioning and fear and need to perform and perfect for love, and the need to feel chosen in childhood, which then manifested in my obviously now early adult life with both platonic and romantic partners, with girls and guys. And I've had to go through several cycles of people being in my life showing me this theme for me to really understand it, become aware of it, and then get over it. When I was kind of healing through and moving through that situation with that guy, I did do all the things I promised myself I was going to do. Like I was locking into my fitness, workout, diet, routine, lifestyle, all that good stuff. But the difference was in the past where I'd be like this heavy muscle mommy gym rat, and again, seeking validation from that lifestyle, I would go to yoga and I'd flow and I'd feel and I'd be and I'd allow myself to move through the moments of like, I want to call him. Do I call him? And then ultimately being like, no, like I choose myself. Doing all the things I love to do, taking myself on dates, journaling, meditating, reading, lots of deep hip opening and trauma healing and restoring, and just becoming truly devoted to myself. Treating myself like the goddess I am, nourishing myself like the temple my body is, and still feeling and still allowing myself to be human and hold on to the most sacred parts of me. Like, yeah, I did like this guy, but I don't need to be crippled by his loss in my life. It's not a bad thing that I had that experience. It's actually a beautiful thing because I've now learned to reclaim my power through it. I didn't shut down. I didn't turn myself cold. I didn't say, F all men are the same. He's just like the rest. I have to be cold-hearted. No, like I turned deeper inward to my softness and my sovereignty in myself. And it catapulted my healing, my physical weight release journey, my progress in yoga, the content I make for you. Like it has fueled my creativity in such a beautiful way. The other day, I had seen he posted on Instagram. He was like, hey, looking for a graphic designer. If anyone knows anybody, hit me up, whatever. Something along those lines. And I know a graphic designer. We are mutuals on Instagram. We went to elementary school together and high school together. So she's someone I've known almost all my life. She's a year older than me. So we weren't like close friends, but again, like community acquaintances. She's been very, very supportive of me online the past couple of years. Like we've stayed in touch online, and she's just been very, very kind and sweet to me. And so when I saw that post he did, I thought to myself, I could not message him because of my own pride and ego, but I feel like I should, because it would give this friend acquaintance of mine an opportunity, a business opportunity, right? And like that's her job. She's like a freelance graphic designer. And so ultimately, I decided to message him, and I thought to myself, like, I could not text him, but not texting him in my mind, based on the way I feel right now, would mean that he still has control over my emotions. The reason why I wouldn't text him is because I felt petty in a way, but also like, I can't text him because I don't want him to know that I'm thinking about him or chasing him or whatever, like thought process was going to my head. But then I thought, like, I could give an opportunity to somebody that's a mutual acquaintance of mine, somebody that I've known for many, many years, who grew up in my neighborhood. We went to the same elementary school growing up all my life. Like I've known her all my life, and she's been very supportive of me online throughout the past couple years. And I could give her an opportunity by messaging this guy and saying, hey, this girl does the job you're looking to hire. And so I thought, like, it would be good karma for me to do that for her, like to give her that opportunity, especially because she's been so kind to me. And so I kind of like put my own, again, ego and pride aside and messaged him, and I didn't have to make it about me. I removed the attachment and my personal feelings from this interaction because I wanted to do that for my mutual friend acquaintance. And I was like, hey, saw your post looking for a graphic designer. Here's the Instagram of this person. I left it at that. I didn't open the doors in my heart and in the message to say that I'm looking to start a conversation with you and make it about me and make it personal. I strictly left it as, hey, I have a graphic designer. Here you go. Hope this helps. You know what I mean? He messages me back and he's like, Brianna, you're the best. Thank you so much. Basically telling me a little bit more about the project he's working on. And, you know, he's been in contact with a few people, but he's looking for something super simple. So it should be good and he'll check her out. I was like, okay. I felt myself initially get excited to see his name pop up in my phone again, but then I was like, I'm different this time around, and I don't crave his validation, and I don't need to be checking my phone to see when he's messaging me or why he's messaging me, because this isn't about me. And so I respond. I was like, no problem. Happy I could help. Glad this information is of use to you. She's a really sweet girl. I've known her since elementary, and she does great work. And then I said, hope all is well. Hope you're enjoying the summer, something like that. And I felt good about that. I felt really, really good that I did that because my intuition, my heart told me to do it. I thought it was good karma, and I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't message him, because that would mean he still had that much power over me. If I can't even message him about somebody else completely, not about me, then I'm still hung up and crashing out and chasing. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, even navigating that interaction was a test of my own boundaries, as I said in this video. I felt myself kind of like go back and forth between different thoughts and feelings and emotions and whatever. But I reminded myself, it was like, even if theoretically I message him, again, I kept it very neutral, and he messages me back, and then he's like, hey, would love to see you. How's everything? Like, makes it personal or opens the door. I reminded myself that I wouldn't want somebody like that in the first place. I wouldn't want him because he already showed me that he is not the partner I deserve by the way he ended things. I deserve somebody that shows up with love and integrity and respect, period. If he was the man that I deserved, then he would have never ghosted me, or if the timing wasn't right for him for whatever reasons he had for ghosting me in the first place, he would have said, like, look, I really loved our time together. You are everything I'm looking for. I'm just not ready to commit at the level that you deserve right now. And we'd be good, you know? But he didn't do that. He just chose not to answer my message one day and leave it at that. So it's like, even if now things have come around, the turns have tabled, it's like, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. And the kicker, the icing on the cherry of this cake, or whatever they say, is that he never answered that message. But it's just like, like, first of all, I don't care. The relief almost I feel from being ghosted over something that literally has nothing to do with me makes me feel so free because I don't care. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not butthurt. Like, how could he not message me? Because I don't care. This wasn't about me. I did what felt right to my heart and my soul. I put out my good intention in the universe. I potentially gave this opportunity to somebody that supported me. I stood on business on my girls girl activities, and I didn't make it about me. I didn't let myself get attached when I have no reason to be attached. I didn't let myself get emotionally involved in the chase again because I no longer need that chase. And so just the fact that he didn't even freaking answer that last message, I'm like, beautiful. You have shown me once again why I have overcome this trauma pattern, and you have served me so beautifully in my life. And so that's why even now, again, with like all of my healing and the compassion work I've done, it's like I feel so happy and rewarded by this interaction because now I finally feel confident and assured and clear in the fact that he wasn't meant to be my boyfriend. He wasn't meant to be the man that I allow into my sacred space. He was simply meant to open up this part of me so that I can become a deeper, more compassionate, more confident, more clear version of myself. He was in my life so I could return back to myself, and that is the most powerful feeling. I'm like, yes, like I'm like dancing, telling this story because for a long time I never thought I'd see that day. In so many chapters of my life, I never thought that I'd be able to sit here and be okay with not being chosen by somebody that I wanted to choose me so badly. I'm like, yes. Like, yes, like that's what he was meant to do. The real love story is me returning back to me. The real love story isn't me with him. The real love story is me, and I'm continuously being reminded of that love story, and I'm continuously choosing to return back to that love story. When I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, April 24th, 2020, I married myself that day. I said to myself, Brianna, from this day forward, you are going to fully love yourself. You're going to fully choose yourself. You're going to fully make yourself a priority, understand yourself to the best of your ability, to heal, to love, and to give yourself the life you deserve. And that means saying no when it feels right to say no. Standing up for yourself, not people pleasing, choosing yourself, choosing your goals, choosing your dreams. Every single day I have worked towards that, being 1% better every day, learning and overcoming, learning and unlearning, being tested, and then needing to work around that and navigate that. And this is just another chapter in that forever long journey and marriage and union of self-love. I feel so rewarded and accomplished being able to be mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally liberated from people in my life that reminded me of my childhood patterns. I feel so incredibly liberated being able to sit here today and tell you this story and not be embarrassed and not be ashamed, but rather proud. I feel so much pride telling you this story because it reminds me that I conquered, and I conquered with compassion, and I conquered with kindness and softness. And when it felt uncomfortable and when it hurt and when it was hard, I didn't shut it off. I didn't turn cold. I went deeper inward. I became the version of myself that ultimately knows that she never needed to chase or shrink or morph in the first place. She never had to question her worth in the face of people who couldn't carry the weight of her greatness and her brightness and her divinity. You are a freaking goddess. You are so divine, so powerful. You are the standard in your own life. You check off all the boxes. You are that girl because you are the center of your universe. So it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Let them live their life. And if they simply cannot hold the weight of your energy, that is okay. Because we often mistake romantic and even platonic connections, chemistry, for compatibility. We mistake chemistry for our childhood patterns rather than compatibility and matching with a person that can hold the weight and respect you as an individual and not you as a placeholder. Yeah, Yeah. So raise a glass to you because you have the discernment to know when to stand up for yourself, when to let go, when to walk away, when to choose yourself, which is always, and ultimately being okay either around these people or not around these people, with these people or without these people. You are grounded, stable, and steady no matter what waves come in and out of your life. I come from a very loving familial background. And even in that loving background, I learned what it was like to perform for love, to be the bigger person, but in other words, just bite my tongue and silence myself in order to keep the peace around chaos that I never caused. I learned to suppress my emotions because that protected me and kept me safe and kept me loved and emotionally nurtured. And I strived for perfection because I learned that I got applauded louder and seen deeper when I was perfect. As a result, I attracted a lot of people into my life that I performed for, I acted perfect for, I gave myself to, and sacrificed a lot of myself for, and never was met with reciprocity. And I don't say this to toot my own horn, but I became a very useful asset for a lot of people. It was very beneficial to have me around. Simply speaking, of course it would be, because I do everything for everybody else all the time without ever asking or getting anything in return. But as a result, that kindness made me be a placeholder in the lives of people that I loved and deeply cared about. And again, when they left, I was like, how? Why? I did everything right. What's the problem with me? But in reality, they never loved me for me. They loved what I did for them, the purpose I served in their life. It became a very transactional relationship, but an unhealthy transaction. And so I say this to you as somebody that also needed to affirm this in myself time and time again. You are not a placeholder. You are not a plan B. You are not someone's in between or backup. And so when these people return from your past, you do not owe them entry into your life, especially if they once walked away from it. Because your healed self doesn't need closure. Your healed self doesn't try to fix others. Your healed self knows I can love someone and still choose myself. Relating it once again to the examples of my personal experiences that come to mind when talking about this topic, I can say that after these old connections have resurfaced for various reasons, I feel so much more grounded in myself. Again, I'm emotionally detached. I now trust myself enough and feel safe enough to be grounded and at peace around chaos or around people that once hurt me so deeply because I was craving to feel chosen by them and then was ultimately left in the dust or betrayed by these people. I now choose myself. And so in the time between these connections initially ending and them resurfacing, I have learned what it means to choose myself, to not seek that validation, to not be that people pleaser, to not give my energy so freely away to people. And I want to share these simple tips with you because whether you're dealing with someone that's coming back into your life like an ex, or you're dealing with somebody that's currently in your life and is deeply hurting you, or is somebody that's draining you and bringing you down and therefore shouldn't be in your life, but for many various valid reasons, you can't completely cut them off or cut ties with them or completely sever communication. I want to share these tips with you so that you can still remain grounded and ultimately detached and freeing yourself from these attachment chains that you've put on yourself with this person so that you can remain grounded and protected and safe even in their presence. Number one, don't chase, observe. The same way when you're watching clouds pass in the sky, you're observing them without judgment. You're allowing them to pass in front of you, make the shapes they're gonna make, and continue on their journey out of your sight. Information is neutral. Our reactions to that information is not. People's energy always reveals their intention, and it's not your job to fix that into something that you believe is right or wrong. Just observe it and respond accordingly to their positive or negative energy. In other words, stay non-reactive. Having control over your emotions is one of your greatest powers. Being educated, period, especially as a woman, is your power. But taking that a step further, being educated on the way your nervous system operates, being educated on your traumas and your triggers, being educated on psychology, on manipulation tactics, on patterns and different attachment styles is your power, because now you have a textbook to guide you in these different scenarios where outside forces are at play. If you feel triggered, pause. Feel that trigger. Understand why you feel that trigger, but don't respond from that place. Going further, deeper inward, I invite you to journal your boundaries. What are you available for? And what are you no longer tolerating? This next tip is a big one I really had to learn, and that's using emotional distance intentionally. For all my fellow people pleasers out there, I truly want you to get this in your head. You can hang out with someone and not hand over your whole entire soul to them. And finally, if it's still simply something you don't want to do, protect your peace. It is not worth it to sacrifice your peace for temporary validation. The most powerful thing you can do is not beg for clarity. It's to become the clarity. You're no longer trying to earn love. You're no longer the version of you who needed to prove their worth. You've outgrown people, patterns, and performances. And now you don't need closure because you are the closure. If this spoke to your soul today, comment below. I release the need to perform for love. Let's hold space for each other in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for being here with me and sharing your love and light and energy with me. I love you 224. And as always, I will see you in the next one.